Bilbo Baggins is a hobbit who enjoys a comfortable, unambitious life, rarely traveling any further than his pantry or his cellar. But his contentment is disturbed when the wizard Gandalf and a company of dwarves arrive on his doorstep one day to whisk him away on an adventure. They have launched a plot to raid the treasure hoard guarded by Smaug the Magnificent, a very large and dangerous dragon. Reluctantly, Bilbo joins their quest, unaware that on his journey to the Lonely Mountain, he will encounter both a magic ring and a frightening creature known as Gollum. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another book review video. This time I'm going to be reviewing The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. So if you don't know, The Hobbit is a prelude, basically, to The Lord of the Rings, which I have the books right here. And I finished this book a couple of days ago, not too long ago, so it's still pretty fresh in my mind. But yeah, it was a pretty good book. So with that out of the way, let's get into the review. The first thing I want to say is that this book is probably my new favorite book. Overtook Jaws, I know. It's just the way he writes, he really just pulls you into this world. Like, there's so much you can tell, even though this is technically a children's book, you can tell there's just so much rich history and everything. Like, everything has a name, you can tell everything has a history. And I think he does that really effectively. Also, our main character, Bilbo Baggins, he is a hobbit. Now, if you don't know what hobbits are basically these little people, and they're basically just humans, but really short with really big feet. That's the best way I can describe them right now. And the main thing you need to know about them is that they hate doing anything like out of their comfort zone that doesn't lead to a comfortable life. So like, they don't like going on adventures. But our main hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, kind of feels like he might want to go on an adventure, but it's not confirmed to him until the wizard Gandalf shows up on his front porch with a company of dwarves, who then kind of stay at his house for a little bit. I think it's only like a day in the book, and they eventually try to convince him to go on this journey to help get their riches back from a dragon. And he eventually, obviously, says yes to the adventure, and he goes off in the adventure. And his story arc is I think completed, like, it's either I think it's like the 16th, the 15th chapter, where they eventually, like, the dwarves eventually start actually respecting Bilbo and his opinions after he's proved himself that he's capable of going on these adventures. Hi, it's post-production Braden here. I feel like it was important to mention that he only proves himself, he, as in Bilbo, only proves himself after Gandalf just kind of up and leaves. Yeah, so, back to past Braden. And I just think every character in this book, except for maybe Gandalf, has a story arc, no matter how big or small. Like, I think 13 of the dwarves they each have a little story arc. Yeah, also, this book has really nice illustrations. Let me try to find one real quick. There we go. Like, this one. This one is the first illustration, at least my copy of the book. It's called The Trolls. And that's beautiful. Look at that. This is the illustration of the Trolls. I might have already said that, I don't remember. Also, they have a map at both the beginning and at the end. Like, so here's the one at the beginning. And here is the one at the end. Yeah. So those are the maps and some of the illustrations, or at least one of the illustrations. Also, I feel like kind of ironically, I feel like this is one of the most human stories I've ever read, even though it's not about a human. And it was just such a good book. I enjoyed it so much. I don't really have any real complaints. Oh, I do have two, and I'll get into those actually probably right now. The first one has nothing to do with the actual story itself. It just happens to be with this edition of the book. If we go to the thing that tells you where all the illustrations are, you can see that we have, one second, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 illustrations, counting the maps. But none of them are of Smaug the Dragon. Even though that just happens to be with my edition. I know some other like hardcover editions of the book, or like maybe even more paperback editions, have illustrations of Smaug. If I can find one from an actual book, I'll put it up on the screen right now. And the second thing is, this was also my only real complaint with Jaws, was that the main characters do not kill the main villain of the book. Like in Jaws, Jaws did this a little bit better, because Quint killed the book, even though Brody's not the book. Quint killed the shark, even though Brody's the main character of the book. I kind of let them off the hook with that because Quint was still one of the main characters. But in this one, it's a human named if I can find his name. Okay, found his name. His name is Bard. Yeah, this human Bard kills Smaug. And I do kind of forgive them for this, because he does kind of become a prominent character in the last few chapters. Before this, we had no idea who he was, other than, and we don't really get an introduction to this character until, right before he kills Smaug. And that's my only real gripe with the actual story itself, but other than that, everything in the story was pretty much just perfect. Alright, to end this review, I'm going to show you the last few illustrations that are in the book. So I'm going to do that real quick. Here's the one I already showed you, the trolls. Here's the mountain path. Here is the Misty Mountains looking west from the Eyrie towards the Goblin Gate. Here is Bjorn's Hall. Here is the Elven King's Gate. And this illustration is actually probably my favorite chapter of the book. If you don't know, this is the chapter where they escape from the prison that the Elven King has put them in, through barrels and down a river. And that's probably my favorite part of the book, and here's that illustration again. Here is Lake Town. Here is the front gate. And the last illustration coming up here is the hall at Bag End. Okay, now, to end it off, I do have one more negative to say about the book. Again, it's not really about the story itself, it's just kind of the way they advertised the book. So here at the end of the summary, or whatever you want to call it, the blurb on the back, you can see that they specifically mention Gollum and the One Ring, even though Gollum himself only appears in one chapter, and that is chapter 5. Yeah, that is chapter 5, Riddles in the Dark. This is the chapter where Bilbo finds the magic ring, he stumbles upon it in the dark, and he meets Gollum. Now, this is the only part of the book where Gollum actually physically appears, but he's explicitly mentioned in the back of the book. I'm not too upset about them mentioning the One Ring, because the One Ring is pretty prominent in the book, but yeah, no, that's my last gripe about the book, and I hope you enjoyed today's video, and thank you for watching. Goodbye. I want to tell you